All right. And then the other two, I would say, and listen, there are more, and I don't want to leave anybody out because if you're listening to this, you probably want me to tell you how great your school did. In a lot of ways, high school recruiting day is a little bit like fantasy football, right? You really care intimately about like just your team, and you want me to tell you that the players that your team got and your team signed, they're going to make the difference and make a turn, and they're going to win a national championship at your school. And in a lot of ways, we have no idea. And I think that that's pretty clear. But the other two big ones, I just think from a news perspective, are two guys, Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver, Ohio State, number one player in the country, and Jordan Seaton, the number one offensive lineman, who was committed to Colorado. Remember, committed on undisputed with Skip and the guys and did the whole thing. And now has not signed and will not sign on Wednesday. And it looks like there are a couple of big players involved, Maryland being one of them, Oregon being another, that are making a big push late to get Jordan Seaton. Let's call it what it is. When a player flips or when there is a push from a team late, what does that mean? That obviously means NIL dollars. Okay, like that's pretty clear. Don't begrudge the players that one bit. And if they want to play in that world, then absolutely go ahead and play in that world. I think that the hard part from a coaching perspective and from a program perspective is that nobody can sign until that day. So the volume of players that you're trying to herd is at times like catching butterflies, herding cats. It's difficult, because everybody's getting calls and there's a bag man ready to show up at everybody's doorstep. So these last few hours, like they take years off of these coaches' lives, and these coaches hate it. And in a lot of ways, rightly so. But again, I'm not begrudging the players who want to play that game and who want to derive leverage or use that leverage. Then they should, and they should be able to, because again, their commodity is their talent. And the university, the program, those teams and those coaches, they need that talent in a lot of ways in order to be as successful as they want to be. Well, if that's your leverage, then use it. Any one of us listening right now, and I'm included in this, are looking for opportunities in our professional life to use leverage. Of course we are. So we should not begrudge these kids and players and young men. I should call them young men. I shouldn't call them kids. These young men, the opportunity to do that. When you have leverage in your life, exercise it. Of course. I hope I get a chance to do it someday. I hope you get a chance to do it someday. That just kind of is what it is. So what should we do about it? Well, let's just say you don't want to play in that world. For whatever reason. Okay. You could be the number one player. You could be the 100th ranked player. You could be the 300th ranked player. It doesn't matter. Right? 50th player. It doesn't matter. If you're a player that doesn't want to play in the leverage game, okay, and you don't want to be fielding calls, I think that we should allow players to sign at any moment during the course of their recruitment. For one, it would, in a lot of ways, it would reduce the ridiculous blanket offering of sophomores and freshmen throughout the country, high school sophomores and freshmen throughout the country. You wouldn't be able to have 50 or 65 offers out there. And it's like, oh, we like that kid. Offer him so that we can put out a social media post, or he can put out a social media post, because there would be some consequences to that. As soon as there's an offer out in my system, that kid could sign it. Bam. And it's done. He can sign his national letter of intent right then, right there. Then guess what? Tampering rules apply. So nobody else can call him. So in a lot of ways, like, the player could be done with it and not have to deal with the rat race that is recruiting if he doesn't want to. And then the coach would have the peace of mind of knowing that that player could not break that letter of intent. And at least in his first year, is definitely going to be at that institution and with that program. Now, if the coach gets fired or if the coach leaves, obviously that then would be an ability or a way or an avenue to unbind that national letter of intent, right? So clearly, and I know there are people out there like, well, what if this, Joel? Well, yeah, obviously there are going to be examples where that's going to be a non-binding agreement. But if the coach stays and if the player wants to sign that agreement, it should be binding. And by the way, I don't really see why there shouldn't be able to be some sort of like NIL connection once the player is done with his last season and in those months leading up to his ability to go and enroll in the institution, where that NIL can kind of start. The fact that we have this one day makes it, in a lot of ways, like a disaster. Now, it's fun for some, and maybe you had fun yesterday, watching everything roll in and watching your team. I think it would be better if you knew like right away. Now, would there be some parameters over this rule? Yeah, sure. There would be some parameters. I would set up parameters like you couldn't sign a letter of intent and your entire season should be a dead period. So if you're playing high school football, that's a dead period. Coaches shouldn't be able to go and like see you and bother you. You should be concentrating on playing for your team. That's what you should be able to do. And then if it's outside of that season, guess what? You should be able to be recruited and you should be able to go take visits. And if offered, and if you want to be there, and if you like that coach, you should be able to sign. Why wouldn't you? Why shouldn't you be able to sign right there? So in a lot of ways, what we have right here, the big rat race could be reduced down to just those that want to play the game all the way through. And then the coaches would at least know, okay, so that guy's verbal, but he doesn't want to sign until later. Okay, so like I know that's going to be a battle. It's going to be a battle. And now everybody else, it's like a bat signal from that player. They would know like that player is basically available. But if you want to sign, you should be able to sign. Jordan Seaton verbally committed to Colorado and has said, no, I'm not signing until after signing day. So they are potentially using some leverage there. And I don't begrudge them that opportunity. You only have a few opportunities in life where you have the leverage and then you can exercise that leverage. Verbal commitments are just really not worth anything. So rather than us worrying about every single verbal commitment, those that want to sign, just let them sign. Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.